On this Tuesday night, the future of CUSMA. President Trump is expected to announce Canada's free trade deal with the U.S. and Mexico won't be renewed.
There's a virtual meeting with the three partners tomorrow.
What it means for relations with our largest trading partner and the economy. Air quality alerts blanket Alberta from wildfires burning in the Northwest Territories. One northern community's close call. Plus the messy mix of extreme weather pummeling the Prairies.
No need for the pool anymore. We now have a lake here.
And crying foul.
You're trying to gain an advantage by cheating.
A controversial call and a World Cup upset reignites debate over diving.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Canada's trade tensions with the U.S. are about to come to a head. Tomorrow marks the set date for the first formal review of CUSMA, Canada's free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, which President Donald Trump signed and celebrated during his first term 6 years ago. But the Trump administration is now expected to announce that the U.S. does not want to extend that deal. Mackenzie Gray explains where it leaves Canada's relationship with our largest trading partner.
If you ask the Prime Minister, the only Canada Day fireworks in Ottawa will be on Parliament Hill.
I wouldn't expect any drama tomorrow. I'm not looking for my pen.
A dismissive Mark Carney, not worried about the July 1st deadline to renew the Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade deal for 16 more years.
There's a virtual meeting with the three partners tomorrow. We're expecting a constructive exchange.
An exchange with a predetermined outcome.
Well, I'm not looking to renew it. I made the deal.
But just because the Americans don't want to renew doesn't mean the deal is dead. The next step, annual reviews until the new expiry date of 2036, with tariff-free access in place until then. Both Canada and Mexico had wanted the free trade deal renewed.
Tres países nos conviene el tratado.
But Mexico is also staying calm, with President Claudia Sheinbaum saying the deal's biggest defenders are the business owners who benefit from it, including American farmers, with a coalition of 40 farm groups writing to Trump to ask the deal be renewed, saying U.S. agricultural exports are up $18.3 billion to Canada and Mexico under CUSMA. This agreement is a win for farmers, a win for American families, and a win for you, Mr. President. A win Trump used to brag about.
The USMCA is the fairest, most balanced, and beneficial trade agreement we have ever signed into law.
6 years on, Trump hates his own deal so much, he recently mused about ripping it up.
We do better without an agreement.
Do you want to just leave it rolling?
I would rather leave it unsigned. I'd rather have it terminated.
Trump could do that with 6 months' notice, but that's viewed as posturing by the head of Canada's largest private sector union.
It's really important that we don't lose our nerve and that we're not getting too fussed about all the posturing that's likely going to occur.
To lessen the impact of the U.S. trade war, Mark Carney's attempted to find new trade partners and make up with old ones, like China. But that didn't stop them from putting fresh tariffs on Canada on Tuesday, Jeff, with a new 73% levy on pea starch.
All right, and speaking of pursuing other partners, Mac, the Prime Minister is traveling to Turkey next week for the NATO summit, and we've now learned that he will then be traveling to Saudi Arabia for his first ever in-person meeting with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. What should we expect from that?
Well, we should expect flattery from Mark Carney, Jeff, likely to praise Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for his role in attempting to mediate the war in Iran. Carney's office says he wants Canada to do more business with the Saudis, but right now it's only $3.5 billion annually, the equivalent to 1 day of Canada-U.S. trade. Then there's increased defense ties that Carney wants, despite serious human rights concerns over Canadian-made light armored vehicles being used to suppress protests in Saudi Arabia, a country multiple NGOs describe as a police state. But Carney's visit, the first by a Canadian PM in 26 years, marks a major turning point from the Trudeau era, which included the Canadian ambassador being kicked out and all Saudi investments stopping in 2018 due to Canadian government criticism over the arrest of women's rights activists. But with Saudi having the world's largest oil reserves and massive investment funds, Carney seems to be looking past these issues, including the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, a part of his now well-worn talking point, Jeff, that he takes the world as it is, not how he wishes it to be.
All right, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thank you, Mac. Those trade tensions and tariffs have weighed heavily on the Canadian economy, but new data is showing signs of strength. Statistics Canada says GDP rose 0.5% in April, more than expected after a weak start to the year. That rebound is quieting some concerns about a recession, but risks remain. Global's new senior business editor, Jacqueline Hansen, reports.
Demand here hangs on national pride. This week, it's Canada Day and yet another test of Canada's relationship with the U.S.
If the conversation doesn't, end up being positive, we will probably see another slight surge where consumers want to remind the world how proud they are to be Canadian.
President Donald Trump's attacks on Canada have brought a welcome boost for this business, but tariffs have also hurt sales of its custom flags south of the border.
Some of our clients have stood by us and said, doesn't matter, you're who we've always worked with, we'll take on, the additional costs. Other clients haven't been, able to necessarily do that.
Tariffs and trade tensions contributed to a weak start to the year for Canada's economy, but data for April shows signs of strength across the oil sector, manufacturing, even construction.
It really should put an end to the speculation that Canada is in a recession.
We have a relatively optimistic forecast for the economy as we maneuver through these difficult times.
Why? Well, if energy prices keep easing, Canadians could have more money to spend. Government efforts to speed up project approvals and break down internal trade barriers could encourage more business investment. And many economists expect Canada, the U.S., and Mexico will reach some sort of trade deal.
I think we will continue to have an agreement. We're not looking forward to it being completely disbanded.
Still, if the result is an annual review, there's worry that uncertainty could hold some businesses and the economy back.
This sort of persistent uncertainty and tariffs in general are a significant downside risk to economic activity.
Trade stability would mean more confidence to invest and hire for this company.
If not, then we focus on what we can control.
And keep helping Canadians show their national pride in the moments that matter. Jacqueline Hansen, Global News, Toronto.
The federal government has just committed more than $500 million to help rebuild Jasper, Alberta, nearly 2 years after the town was devastated by a wildfire.
We're going to be there to rebuild Jasper. We're going to rebuild Jasper with its stunning beauty so that not only Canadians can be proud, but the world will be proud of this wonderful place.
The funding is meant to expedite reconstruction efforts, including restoring campgrounds, facilities, and trails in Jasper National Park. Temporary housing will also be provided to displaced residents through March 2028. The funding is on top of the $385 million previously provided for recovery efforts. Most of Alberta and some communities in neighbouring provinces are experiencing poor air quality tonight, stemming from wildfires burning in Saskatchewan and the Northwest Territories. And it was a scary night for some residents in the north. An out-of-control wildfire came dangerously close, burning just 7 kilometres west of the village of Fort Simpson. The fire grew to an estimated 10,000 hectares. Fortunately, a well-timed shift in the wind may have saved that community, but as Heather Yourex-West explains, the lucky break may not last long.
When the call came to evacuate Fort Simpson late Sunday, Stella Nadia stayed behind.
It's my home. It's all we got.
A decision the longtime resident almost came to regret when just after dinner time Monday, the sky went ominously dark. This was taken at 6:30 local time as flames closed in on the town.
By 7 o'clock, I don't know, 7:15, the big thing came in and said to shelter down in place, take off to the rec center. We just decided to shelter in place at home.
I know a lot of people were very worried going into last night as that word came out that the fire was about 500 meters from Gill Crescent.
But Mother Nature showed mercy on Fort Simpson. Almost as quickly as the fire advanced, the winds changed.
Honestly, for the forecast and fire behavior that was happening last night, almost best case scenario for what could have occurred.
The 10,000 hectare blaze now burns just 7 kilometers away. But with favorable winds and a break from the heat, fire crews are hopeful.
The nice thing is that we can access the edge of the fire that's burning adjacent to the community now, so we can actually start to work to do on-the-ground firefighting.
Most of the town's residents are now sheltering in Yellowknife, a 7-hour drive away. The evacuation order remaining in place with favorable fire weather not expected to last long.
As we go ahead into the end of the weekend and into next week, we're going to see another ridge rebuild in the heat, and that is going to bring in more hot temperatures and the possibility of some more strong winds too.
The smoke from all those northern fires
wildfires now impacting air quality down here in Calgary and through much of southwest Alberta. Environment Canada asking people to limit their activity outdoors until conditions improve, which is expected to happen later this week. Jeff?
All right, Heather Yourex-West in Calgary. Thanks, Heather. The Prairies are also enduring extreme weather. A mixed bag of wildfires, flooding, and even a suspected tornado have caused widespread damage across parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Melissa Ridgen reports.
Residents in this Winnipeg neighborhood were cleaning up Tuesday. Homes destroyed, trees uprooted, this shed from a neighboring yard. Environment Canada not sure if high winds or a tornado was responsible for Monday night's destruction.
I do recognize that trampoline, though, from one of these houses.
Right. Southwestern Manitoba was pounded with rain, 153 millimeters in one town.
Okay, welcome to the campground. No need for the pool anymore. We now have a lake here.
Joe Waldner runs an extreme weather page on social media and tracked the storm systems that hit Manitoba and Saskatchewan Monday night.
Combination of one larger cell system that's moving, but there's a couple of variations to it. One was in the Saskatchewan area and one was in the Manitoba area.
The remnants of it still swirling today. It's been a rough few days on the prairies before Monday's storms, Sunday tornadoes. This in Pelly, Saskatchewan, another in Rossburn, Manitoba that destroyed a century-old farmhouse. And Regina still drying out from the weekend rain that flooded parts of that city. Meanwhile, thunderstorms in the northern parts of both provinces have made wildfire situations there worse. With storm tracking more popular than ever, Waldner says folks are online watching for extreme weather, but also should be prepared long before it hits.
Be prepared for power outages. Have 24 or 36 hours worth of food and water and protection. Keep your eyes to the skies, watch what's going on, and if you happen to have any questions or issues or you're concerned, get to the basement.
Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And extreme heat is the story across southern Ontario and Quebec this week. Temperatures are expected to hover around the mid-30s, with the humidex into the 40s for much of the week. The hottest days will coincide with Canada Day festivities and Toronto's final FIFA World Cup match on Thursday. Environment Canada has issued heat alerts across the region that could last until the weekend. Following last week's deadly twin earthquakes in Venezuela, the Canadian government is now pledging to match public donations up to $4 million to the Canadian Red Cross and a dozen other aid organizations. That's on top of the $5 million in aid Ottawa committed last week. The World Food Program says at least $50 million are needed to provide emergency food assistance to 500,000 people over the next 3 months. At least 1,700 people are now confirmed dead, and tens of thousands of others are still missing. Major rulings from the U.S. Supreme Court coming up. The legal battles over birthright citizenship and transgender athletes. On its final day of rulings before the summer break, the U.S. Supreme Court released decisions on two closely watched cases. The court upheld state laws prohibiting transgender student athletes from playing on girls' sports teams. 6 of the 9 justices ruled that state bans do not violate the Constitution. More than 24 states have bans on trans athletes. U.S. President Donald Trump called the decision a big win. But the court also rejected another Trump policy. The president's efforts to end birthright citizenship in the United States were struck down. The president and his supporters have claimed that the move is necessary to combat illegal immigration. Heidi Petracek explains why Trump says the fight isn't over yet.
We're right, and he's wrong.
Democrats celebrated the Supreme Court decision, although that decision wasn't unanimous.
The fact that there were actually 3 votes to overturn birthright citizen was shocking.
But the 6-3 ruling is enough to strike down the U.S. president's attempt to withhold citizenship from children born to temporary or undocumented residents in the United States. If it had gone the other way, it would have affected millions of people in the country over generations.
How would hospitals issue birth certificates? How would local agencies issue social security numbers? There were so many questions that would have had to be answered.
The justices relied on a long-held understanding of the 14th Amendment adopted after the Civil War, one the U.S. president tried to upend with his executive order signed on day 1 of his second term.
Donald Trump argued this section of the 14th Amendment, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, excluded children of non-citizens from that right.
I think it's very bad for our nation.
Tuesday, the president slammed the ruling in an online post and vowed to achieve his goal through Congress, claiming no long and unwieldy constitutional amendment is necessary.
We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be lots of discussion about that. I will say I'm very disappointed in that outcome.
But getting a constitutional amendment through Congress is highly unlikely, only done 27 times in the nation's entire history.
One of the Supreme Court justices indicated that he thought that a change in legislation would open the path for such an executive order.
One would like to think that the decision was grounded in constitutional principles and that would hold.
The fact this case was heard at all, critics say, the result of the Supreme Court's conservative supermajority and a president bent on getting his way. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Washington.
South Africa on edge, still ahead. Protesters spark violence and set a deadline for the government to crack down on illegal immigration. Thousands of South Africans took to the streets today, demanding illegal migrants leave the country immediately. Anti-migrant groups had set an unofficial deadline of today for undocumented residents, mostly from other African nations, to return home. They accuse foreigners of stoking crime and drug use and taking jobs from South Africans. As Redmond Shannon reports, many have already fled following attacks on their communities.
South Africa has long struggled with internal divisions and discrimination. But this is D-Day and the latest flare-up of protests against outsiders, mostly those from other parts of Africa.
We are capable of running tuck shops. We do not need Omar from Somalia to come and do that.
Jacinta Ngobese Zuma is one of the anti-immigration movement leaders. She gave undocumented migrants an unofficial deadline of Tuesday to leave the country, blaming them for crime and undercutting South Africans in the job market.
Well, sometimes we don't know if it's undocumented migrants that they want out, or if it is all migrants, especially the African ones, and that's the Afrophobic side of this whole situation.
Attacks against foreigners are not uncommon, and Tuesday saw some violence and looting, despite calls for calm. Polls suggest as many as 2 in 5 South Africans oppose all immigration. Thousands of migrants have fled to camps for safety. Many more have already returned home to countries like Malawi and Zimbabwe.
I was afraid of my life and my kids. We were just able to take a bag of clothes and some small items. Then we came here.
Ahead of Tuesday, President Cyril Ramaphosa met movement leaders, and in a statement he said South Africa's immigration system requires substantial reform. Ngobese Zuma says there will be weekly protests until their demands are met. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Fake it till you make it. Up next, the sneaky strategy that has soccer fans crying foul. He's back. There are reports tonight that former Toronto Raptors superstar Kawhi Leonard is returning to the team. ESPN and The Athletic are reporting that the Raptors and the Los Angeles Clippers are close to a trade. Leonard, who helped to lead the Raptors to their first ever NBA title in 2019, is coming off the best offensive season of his career. And we now know that Canada will take on Morocco in the next World Cup knockout match in Houston on Saturday. The Moroccan team eliminated the Netherlands last night in a match that went down to the wire and had to be decided in penalties. Morocco is the clear favorite, ranked 6th in the world. Canada is ranked 30th. And there was also a major upset last night when Paraguay eliminated soccer powerhouse Germany. The match was also decided in penalties after the referee disallowed a potentially game-winning goal from Germany. The ref ruled that there was contact with the netminder, sparking uproar from fans. As Eric Sorensen reports, it's putting a spotlight on the sport's long history of feigned fouls.
In a match Monday night, a Dutch player went down. A moment later, a Moroccan. The referee quickly signaled only the Moroccan was fouled. The first contact was not a foul. The match analyst said the Dutch player had tried to bait the referee by going down. It's one of the dark arts of soccer. Players seen agonizing, writhing on the ground, desperate to influence a referee. Then, soon enough, they're up and running, and they seem just fine. What's going on?
Players are just looking to gain an advantage on an opponent. You're trying to gain an advantage by cheating, in all honesty.
For some, one play in Germany's match with Paraguay showed the impact that drawing fouls can have. A German goal was reviewed because the Paraguayan goalkeeper went down after slight contact with a German. When the goal was disallowed, the match analyst said the goalkeeper tried to play act to the referee and he got away with it. The goal could have sent Germany to the next round. Instead, they lost a penalty shootout and were sent home. It wasn't the most fair, says this German fan, the referee's mistake. Fouls and injuries are part of the game, like Ismail Kone's broken leg for Canada. Referees need to make calls to protect players. To curb abuse, FIFA has brought in new rules. Players who stall for medical treatment can be sent off for a minute, and players can be penalized for trying to deceive the referee.
Yellow carding players for diving embellishment, I think that's a major step forward, and I think the referees in the World Cup, in this World Cup, have done an excellent job of that.
But it's still a judgment call. VAR technology helps review controversial plays to get it right, but sometimes the best soccer players are also very good actors. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
An Oscar-worthy performance. That is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is this patriotic lawn display in Edmonton, just in time for Canada Day. We love seeing your Canada, so please email your pictures to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Colin Christie will be at the anchor desk with you tomorrow, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Have a great Canada Day and a good night.